Good morning, evening, or night. Wherever you are, welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Wednesday, 30th April, 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. United States. The U.S. economy contracted by 0.3% in the first quarter, marking its first decline since 2022 due to a surge in imports. This economic slowdown, alongside tech earnings reports and President Trump's tariff policies, caused fluctuations in U.S. stock market futures, with the Dow Jones initially falling significantly. Wall Street experienced volatility as major indices like the S&P 500 and NASDAQ reacted sharply to the economic news, including a 2% drop in the S&P 500, reflecting economic concerns. Positive signals on inflation and potential tariff deals spurred some recovery, with the Dow Jones gaining points. The U.S. stock market has been volatile since Trump took office, with the first 100 days of a potential second term seeing plunges in the Dow and S&P 500 and a weakening U.S. dollar. Despite these concerns, US banks are showing strength in issuing, outperforming their European counterparts. Santander is considering a sale in Europe to increase its U.S. market relevance. The Senate confirmed former Sen. David Perdue as U.S. ambassador to China, amidst ongoing tariff tensions. The U.S. and France are jointly advocating for a Ukraine ceasefire. The INMC chair statement analysis for the spring meetings 2025 suggests the INF is reshaping the international order to align with the new U.S. administration's vision. Turning to China, the Senate's confirmation of former Sen. David Perdue as U.S. ambassador occurs amidst a tariff dispute between the two countries. Chinese vendors in Yiwu are adapting to the tariff war by diversifying their global customer base. Chinese share sales have remained resilient despite tariffs, outperforming the U.S. and Europe. Flight cancellations from China to the U.S. have exceeded new bookings, exacerbating the tariff war's impact. Restaurants in both the U.S. and China are feeling the effects of tariffs on food supply chains. While President Trump believes China's trade surplus makes it vulnerable, Beijing appears unconcerned about a trade war. Elon Musk teased Grok 3.5 hours after Alibaba's Qwen 3 generates buzz amid US-China AI race. In the arena of trade and tariffs, the U.S.-China Business Council warns that a significant decline in bilateral trade could destabilize the U.S. economy and jeopardize American jobs. Restaurants in the U.S. and China are experiencing the impact of tariffs on food supply chains. Flight cancellations from China to the U.S. in June have been outpacing new bookings as the tariff war intensifies. Vendors in Yiwu City are mitigating the tariff war's impact by focusing on a growing global customer base. Eurozone consumers are reportedly willing to switch from US products if hit by tariffs. Escalating US tariffs are sending the South African market into a tailspin amid political uncertainty. Volkswagen Group anticipates a decline in performance due to risks posed by US tariffs. Shine has paused its London IPO due to tariff impacts, prompting us restructuring plans. Focusing on Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, TSMC, the company announced the third phase of its U.S. expansion, including construction of a third U.S. plant in Arizona, coinciding with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick's tour of the site. TSMC has broken ground on the third fab in Arizona as its U.S. footprint expands. Moving to India, SEBI initiated an investigation into the Adani Group in 2023 following allegations by Hindenburg regarding improper use of tax havens and stock manipulation, which triggered a significant sell-off. The shares have since recovered. The rupee fell 19 paise to 85.115 against the U.S. dollar in early trade. Shifting to Saudi Arabia, U.S.-Saudi nuclear cooperation signals a strategic shift in the energy future. Finally, regarding Russia-Ukraine, the U.S. and France are calling for a Ukraine ceasefire as Moscow and Kyiv trade blame at the UN Security Council. A Russian diplomat stated that they have yet to discuss a peace plan on the Moscow-Kyiv conflict with the U.S. China's economic activity is slowing due to increased U.S. tariffs, with the April Purchasing Managers' Index, PMI, dropping to 49, below the previous month's 50.5, prompting calls for stimulus. American businesses are canceling orders and delaying expansions, expecting reduced shipping volumes from China at West Coast ports. Despite these issues, China has reduced tariffs on some U.S. goods and has resisted U.S. concerns about its influence in Chile. In the tech world, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang says China is competitive in AI, and Xiaomi claims its MIMO reasoning model rivals OpenAI's own Mini and Alibaba's QWQ3232. China's stock markets have remained stable despite global volatility. The weak PMI data has impacted some indices, while Hong Kong stocks saw gains in tech shares. AC's first quarter profit surpassed expectations, boosted by IPOs and market re-rating, spurred by China's DeepSeek moment, and CATL plans its Hong Kong listing next month. Turning into the United States, President Trump defends tariffs on China as a way to stop the greatest job theft in the world. The Trump administration is ending the de minimis tariff loophole, which will subject Chinese goods imported through the Postal Service to tariffs equivalent to 120% of their value, or a 120% of their value, or a $100 fee per package, impacting goods worth up to $800. Investors are watching how Trump's China tariffs affect online advertising, as Meta prepares to report its first quarter earnings. Dollar General's strong stock performance in Trump's first 100 days is attributed to a market rotation to defensive stocks and lower exposure to China tariffs. Finally, Hong Kong stocks saw a sharp monthly decline, contrasting with the stagnation in China's stock market. Prudential's quarterly new business profit increased, driven by strong growth in Hong Kong and China. India's stock market saw a mixed performance as the Sensex and Nifty 50 experienced marginal declines on April 30th, influenced by geopolitical tensions with Pakistan. The Sensex fell 46 points to 80,242.24, while the Nifty 50 dropped 2 points to 24,334.2, with Baj Twins contributing to the losses. Despite the day's downturn, both indices rose significantly on a monthly basis, driven by trade deal optimism. Mukesh Ambani's net worth surpassed $100 billion again, fueled by Reliance's share price rally, while Indian Oil declared a final dividend of Yoga 3 per share. SEBI has postponed the common contract note rollout for foreign portfolio investors to July 1. Concerns have been raised about Indian banks' preparedness for climate-related financial risks, with predictions of searing heat in May potentially leading to power blackouts. Turning to international relations, First Solar CEO Mark Widmar highlighted that President Trump's tariffs pose an economic challenge for First Solar's plants in India, Malaysia, and Vietnam. Bloomberg has produced a podcast discussing how Donald Trump became India's new best friend. Arab stock markets present a mixed picture, reacting to a blend of corporate earnings, economic indicators, and escalating trade frictions. Despite this, reports suggest a general upward trend. Hedge funds, however, significantly reduced their exposure to European equities in March and April, reaching a 10-year high in selling volume. Private equity activity has also reshaped the landscape, extracting over $1 trillion public markets in the last decade through acquisitions. SIX is considering launching a pan-European trading platform. Microsoft is reinforcing its dedication to its European operations by investing in data centers and promising adherence to European regulations. The tech giant has also stated it will fight any U.S. government directive to shut down its European data centers, seeking to reassure clients concerned about potential disruptions from transatlantic tensions. Germany is navigating a complex economic situation with inflation, slightly surpassing forecasts at 2.2% in April. Lars Klingbeil from the Social Democratic Party is poised to assume the role of finance minister within the upcoming centrist coalition. A notable energy milestone is projected, with green power expected to satisfy 99% of national demand on a particular Thursday. Stock market performance has been uneven. The DAX saw an increase of 0.16% after the U.S. provided tariff relief, partially recovering from April's downturn. However, the Dow Jones Germany Titans Index experienced a substantial drop of nearly 5%. Generally, European markets, including Frankfurt, demonstrated positive trends amid the ongoing formation of Germany's new government. The United States trade strategy, particularly its tariffs on automobiles, steel, and aluminum, are raising alarms for European car manufacturers such as Mercedes-Benz and Volkswagen. Adidas has cautioned that these tariffs will inevitably lead to higher sneaker costs for American buyers. The company notably withheld its full-year profit forecast due to the uncertainty created by these tariffs, also predicting price hikes for American consumers. Russia is escalating its attacks on Ukraine, while US ceasefire efforts stall. The Kremlin has announced it could conduct mass mobilization at any moment, echoing World War II tactics. Simultaneously, Russia has begun building a road bridge to North Korea. Despite sanctions, the Russian economy shows resilience, with a reported 1.4% GDP increase in March. Gazprom has returned to annual profit in 2024, earning $14.80 billion. Russia is also reportedly strengthening the BRICS agenda. Major Western brands, like McDonald's and Coca-Cola, have ruled out a return to the Russian market. The MOEX saw varied share price activity across sectors on April 30th, 2025. Turning to Ukraine, the country continues to suffer from intensified Russian attacks. Civilian infrastructure and residential areas are primary targets. International aid is crucial, yet the need far outweighs the resources available. The government is urging citizens to remain vigilant. Furthermore, they are seeking increased military assistance from Western allies. In the latest from North Korea, construction of a road bridge to Russia has begun, signaling a potential strengthening of ties between the two nations. This project has raised concerns among international observers. They fear it would facilitate increased trade and military cooperation, bypassing existing sanctions. Kim Jong-un has yet to comment publicly on the project. Meanwhile, in China, the government has expressed concern over the escalating conflict in Ukraine, urging all parties to seek a peaceful resolution through dialogue. Premier Li Qiang reiterated China's commitment to non-interference in sovereign affairs. China's trade relations with both Russia and Ukraine remain a delicate balancing act. In Brazil, a key player in the BRICS alliance, President Lula da Silva is advocating for greater economic cooperation among member states. He emphasizes the need for BRICS to present a united front on global issues, including trade and climate change. Brazil is also closely monitoring the impact of the Ukraine conflict on global food security. Shifting focus to the United States, ceasefire efforts in Ukraine have seemingly stalled. The Biden administration is facing increasing pressure to provide more substantial aid to Ukraine. Domestically, inflation remains a concern despite recent economic growth. The Federal Reserve is carefully considering future interest rate adjustments. United Kingdom. The UK's financial sector sees significant activity. Global Data, a prominent analytics firm, is considering takeover bids from both Kia and ICE. The FTSE 100 index showed some initial fluctuation, but ultimately held steady. News Corp has initiated a stock repurchase program. In the investment arena, an associate of the Artemis UK Future Leaders fund manager has acquired shares, and TNA has commenced trading on the London Stock Exchange. Investment analysts are suggesting 2 ETFs as suitable SIP investments for May. Attention is also drawn to two dividend stocks offering yields of 10.7% and 12.3%, respectively. Regulatory changes are on the horizon, with planned reforms to the UK's WHAM regime. The housing market remains sluggish, with house prices showing little movement in recent years. Lint is looking to sell its UK headquarters for £75 million. Tariff. Ukraine is said to be on the verge of finalizing a resources agreement with the United States. Meanwhile, Russia has declared the commencement of direct talks with Ukraine, a claim that has not yet been confirmed by officials in Kyiv. The Kremlin has also tempered expectations, stating that achieving peace will take longer than Donald Trump anticipates. Us Senator Rubio has stressed the importance of tangible proposals concerning Ukraine, suggesting that a lack of progress could lead to reduced disengagement in the region. South Africa's finance minister will present a revised budget on May 21 after VAT changes. The government intends to stabilize debt with this new budget. The South African rand has experienced volatility, weakening before the budget briefing and data releases. The rand initially firmed as investors looked for clarity on the budget details. However, it weakened again following mixed local data and a U.S. GDP dip. South Africa's budget deficit in March was 13.1 billion rand. Anglo-American shareholders approved the demerger of Amplats, its South African unit. BMW captured 40% of South Africa's luxury car market share in Q&A. Concerns have emerged regarding an autotrader scandal and potential threats to investment. The government is investigating alleged suppression of justice related to apartheid-era killings. South Africa's deputy president stressed the importance of the G20 in addressing the weakening of multilateralism. Japan's stock market presented a mixed picture recently, with the Nikkei 225 index sometimes climbing by 0.57% and at other times dipping by 0.2%. Despite these fluctuations, the Nikkei achieved its first monthly gain of the year, boosted by positive sentiment around ongoing trade discussion. Retail sales in Japan also showed growth, increasing by 3.1% compared to the same period last year. A Japanese tariff envoy has embarked on a second round of trade negotiations with the United States, as Japan seeks to navigate complex trade dynamics. Japan's lead negotiator is aiming for consistent advancements in the talks. Automakers in Japan are facing mounting losses, intensifying pressure for consolidation in the industry, driven by increased competition from Chinese manufacturers and the looming threat of tariffs. Morgan Stanley reports that hedge funds in Asia are increasingly directing their investments toward Japan and India as a strategic response to tariff-related uncertainties. The nation's nuclear regulator has approved the safety of Hokkaido Electric's Tomari nuclear reactor. Spain experienced a major blackout, sparking worries about the stability of its electricity grid and potential ripple effects across Portugal and Europe. Meanwhile, in business news, the Spanish antitrust agency is expected to greenlight the acquisition of Sabadell. The U.S. is seeing its premium coffee roasters struggle as climate change and potential tariffs drive up coffee bean prices. Prices have nearly doubled after a record drought in Brazil. Pakistan's financial markets are currently facing their worst month since 2023, marked by underperforming stocks and bonds amid heightened tensions along the Indo-Pak border. The economic climate is further complicated by a new partnership between Pakistan and World Liberty Financial, a cryptocurrency firm associated with Donald Trump. The specifics of this partnership are still emerging. United States commerce with China is slowing down due to escalating tariffs, impacting manufacturing activity as evidenced in a recent report for April. The Trump administration is planning to utilize federal lands for affordable housing construction, which could potentially alleviate housing prices, particularly in states like Nevada. This initiative may face potential obstacles. Turning to Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced new measures to support Indigenous communities, including increased funding for education and healthcare. The proposals aim to address historical injustices and improve the quality of life for Indigenous populations across the country. The Canadian government also faces ongoing challenges regarding pipeline construction and environmental protection. In France, President Emmanuel Macron is facing continued protests over pension reforms, with unions organizing further strikes and demonstrations. The proposed changes to the retirement system have sparked widespread discontent among workers and students. The French government is attempting to negotiate with unions to find a compromise. Meanwhile, in Germany, Chancellor Olaf Scholz is addressing concerns about rising energy costs and inflation. The government is implementing measures to support households and businesses affected by the economic challenges. Germany is also working to diversify its energy sources to reduce its reliance on Russian gas. Romania is bracing for a repeat presidential election after the previous vote was annulled. Rural communities are increasingly leaning toward religious faith and far-right political views amidst this uncertainty. Shifting focus to neighboring Hungary, Prime Minister Viktor Orbán is facing increased scrutiny over controversial new media laws. These laws are seen by many international observers as a threat to press freedom and democratic values. From Hungary, we turn our attention to the United States, where the Federal Reserve recently announced further measures to stimulate the economy. The move aims to boost job growth and combat lingering effects of the recent recession, with debates continuing over its long-term effectiveness. Meanwhile, in Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is navigating complex trade negotiations with key international partners. The discussions are centered on ensuring fair access to markets and protecting Canadian industries in a rapidly changing global landscape. India is grappling with rising tensions along its border with Pakistan. Diplomatic efforts are underway to de-escalate the situation and prevent further escalation of conflict in the disputed Kashmir region. Israel faces scrutiny as Amit Follett, a private investigator, is charged by the U.S. Justice Department with conspiracy to commit computer hacking, accused of targeting American climate activists. Transitioning to economic matters, Israel is exploring opportunities to broaden its trade relationships eastward, proactively planning for a post-war economic landscape. Singapore's stock market rebounded on Wednesday, April 30th, ending a 4-day decline, with the Straits Times Index stymieing 0.7%. According to Bloomberg Mergers and Acquisitions, M&A in Singapore remain robust, largely unaffected by news surrounding former U.S. President Trump. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.